The sound of shattering porcelain silenced the entire café. Conversations stopped mid-sentence, heads turned, all eyes locked on the broken mess near table 4. A tray had fallen, plates lay in shards, soup soaking into the legs of a chair, and at the center of it all stood a 65-year-old man with a slightly hunched back and trembling hands. Harold. How many times, Harold? Do your job properly. If you can't, I won't bother with you. I'll put you out the door. The principal's voice cut through the air like a knife. What are you still doing here? Go home and sit in your rocking chair. The young woman with the perfect hair and expensive heels pointed to a broken spill on the floor. Customers began to murmur. Some turned away, others looked pityingly. But Harold just squatted, not to pick up the plates, but to recover the dignity he had just lowered with them. I'm sorry. It won't happen again, I promise, she whispered, but her voice didn't echo as loud as the porcelain. Someone else was watching him in the corner of the cafe, black t-shirt, dark sunglasses, sipping his coffee in silence. Keanu Reeves. To him, it wasn't just a spill. It was the collapse of a life too proud to beg, too tired to break, but broken nonetheless. He lowered his sunglasses. His eyes were steady, they were focused. He felt the urge to say something, but he waited for the moment. And then the moment came, when the principal snapped again. You're too old, Harold. This isn't a nursing home. It annoys me to deal with you. The silence grew heavy. Keanu slowly stood up. No one expected him to intervene. How many people in this room work harder than that man? His voice was not loud, but it was deeper than a scream. Now all heads turned towards him. The principal walked angrily towards him. Who do you think you are, defending him, and I have to answer to you? Keanu reached into his pocket and pulled out a business card. He reached out his hand and locked eyes with her. If Harold walks out of here today without a job, tomorrow you'll wake up to all the headlines. The choice is yours. Outside the cafe, Harold was walking with his head bowed. Keanu caught up with him and gently put his hand on his shoulder. For the first time in a long time, Harold met a pair of eyes that didn't judge, didn't pity, just saw him. I'm Keanu. How are you? Just trying to get back on my feet, Harold replied with a tired smile. They sat on a nearby bench. Harold took a deep breath. I used to be a jazz musician, he began. 40 years ago I played in clubs all over New York, but those days, they seem like a memory from another life. Keanu listened intently. Harold's voice was fragile, but there was something else underneath. Repressed anger, buried pride. My wife, Linda, has lung cancer. No insurance, no support. It's just me now, doing the best I can. Social Security barely covers the bills. Last week the landlord said he was selling the apartment. We have nowhere else to go. I don't know what to do, I'm so tired. For a moment, her eyes welled up, but she did not cry. She swallowed hard and continued. I only dropped a few plates, but the sound, it was like I was the one who was shattered. Keanu looked down at Harold's battered hands. His knuckles were swollen, his wrists bruised. This man wasn't just old, he was someone the system had quietly discarded, but he was still standing. Come with me tomorrow morning, I have some great ideas for you, Keanu said with calm determination. Where to? Somewhere where you won't just be seen as old, but where you will be seen as valuable, and I believe you will love it there. Harold blinked in surprise. Then he smiled shyly. Perhaps for the first time, someone really wanted to help. Not for praise, not for show, just because. And he saw that sincerity in Keanu's eyes. Something stirred inside him, a spark, maybe hope. The next morning, just as promised, Keanu picked Harold up from his apartment. As they walked through the narrow, dim hallway, the weight of Harold's steps seemed almost visible. When they opened the door, a wave of damp air and medication filled the room. The lighting was faint, the curtains were faded, the walls yellowed with time. But in the middle of the room, a faint breath echoed. Linda, Harold's wife. She lay under a thin blanket, her face marked by the weight of life, but her eyes still lit up when she saw the man she loved. Heading out again, Harold. Not this time, Linda. Not for work, he said, gently kissing her hand. Keanu looked around and noticed something in the corner, untouched for years, a dusty old saxophone, a forgotten glimmer of brass poking out beneath a cloth, like a ghost from the past. Is it still playing? These fingers don't really listen anymore, but sometimes the notes still echo in my head. Keanu picked it up and handed it to her. Then maybe it's time for someone else to hear them. Harold hesitated. What can I play with these hands? The only thing they're good for these days is washing dishes. I'm not the same as I used to be. But then he looked into Keanu's eyes and saw something powerful. Faith. Quiet, determined, unwavering faith. It touched him deeper than any applause he had ever received. Today I'm not taking you to people who want to use you. I'm taking you to people who want to know who you really are. Harold nodded. There was no fear, no shame, just a long-forgotten longing for the stage, for his voice, for himself and for his wife. Keanu brought Harold to an old but still lively jazz club tucked away in a quiet corner of Los Angeles. The walls were covered with black and white photographs of legends. The owner, a longtime friend of Keanu's, looked at Harold curiously. Is it just starting? No, Keanu replied. It's coming back. There was a rehearsal going on, but for a few minutes the stage was empty. Keanu handed the saxophone to Harold. If you want to, just play a little. Show people how talented you are. Harold looked at his hands. His wrists still ached, but somewhere in that pain, a melody was waiting. Hesitant, fragile, real. As soon as the first note filled the air, the conversation stopped. A few musicians raised their heads. The second note broke the silence. On the third note, Harold closed his eyes. He was no longer a tired old man. He was a spirit playing freely. The short performance lasted only a few minutes, but no one could look away. The club owner walked to the stage and clapped softly. Those fingers, it's like they've been hiding this for years. Keanu smiled softly. Harold lowered the saxophone and stepped down, as if a weight had been lifted off his back. Could you do this every week? The club owner asked. Only if it doesn't count as work, Harold laughed. And for the first time, it was loud and free. That evening, when they returned home, Linda was waiting at the door. Her eyes glistened with tears. How was it? I'm still here, Linda. I just forgot that for a while. She wrapped her arms around him and whispered, Hearing your music was the best medicine I've had in weeks. 1 month later, it was a Friday night in Los Angeles. The jazz club was packed wall to wall. Every bar stool, every corner, every inch of space was filled. People had come to hear a sound they didn't know they needed, Harold's. But this time, he wouldn't be telling his story with words. He'd use notes. As the lights dimmed, the club owner stepped up to the mic. Then the spotlight hit the stage. Harold stepped forward, holding a polished saxophone. He walked tall, no longer hunched, no longer hesitant. The stage lights were bright, but they didn't intimidate him anymore. He had learned to live in the dark. Now, the light was healing. Linda sat front row. The chemo had taken her hair, but her eyes still shone with pride. Beside her was Keanu, quiet, calm, steady. Harold leaned into the mic. If I'm here tonight, it's because a few people stood by me, as quietly but as surely as this saxophone's voice. Thank you. And this song, this one's for anyone who's ever wanted a second chance. Then he played. The first note echoed through the club. The melody drifted through the room like light through stained glass. It wasn't a performance, it was a confession. A man saying, I'm still here, without saying a word. Linda cried. Keanu placed a hand on her shoulder. The audience was silent, spellbound. Because what Harold played wasn't just music, it was dignity. It was pride. It was the life he thought he'd lost. When the song ended, there was a pause, stillness.